time, but let's not let it get any worse than it is.
Let's go, guys. Come on,
Just
Will.
a little at a time. Come down. Hey, come down on plays, run 5 into passing. I think about that. Just concentrate.
Come on, guys.
See what the Spurs strategy is as they break out. It is Anderson, Willie, Maxwell, Robertson, Greenwood in the lineup. Short, Floyd, Johnson, Thorpe, and Olajuwon for the Rockets in the final 18 seconds. Anderson to inbounds the ball at midcourt. He'll bring it in to Vern. To Maxwell. Maxwell will take a three-pointer and make it! Vernon Maxwell has just made a three-pointer to tie the ball game with 15 seconds left. Unbelievable. Vern Maxwell has just tied.
Nothing quite as exciting as an NBA game played before a full house. It's really a fantastic experience. Hello, I'm Paul Alexander. As a sports fan, I feel truly fortunate to live in a city where you can see live NBA basketball. The NBA is the hottest league going, and competition to land a team for a city is fierce. We had a first-hand experience with this less than a year ago when there was a real possibility the Spurs would be sold and moved from San Antonio. However, last May 27th, that situation changed dramatically when Red McCombs, who already owned part of the team, came forward with an offer of $47 million and purchased the Spurs outright.
Our goal is to get the ring on the floor and to be the very best as an entertainment center for San Antonio and South Texas in the arena for the fans.
With the ownership solidified, immediate steps were taken to upgrade the franchise both on and off the court. As the Spurs marketing campaign proclaimed, more than a game, it's a good time, the Spurs began to implement changes to carry out this pledge. From something as subtle as more courteous and knowledgeable ushers to the obvious physical renaissance of the Hemisphere Arena, changes were taking place. A concentrated effort was made to upgrade the entire entertainment package. Entertaining halftimes, features on the Jumbotron scoreboard, those were just a few of the changes made, all with one thing in mind, to improve the atmosphere and the experience of attending a Spurs game. These changes underscored the commitment made by the franchise to its most valuable asset, the season ticket holder. Already, the Spurs boasted one of the best benefit packages in the NBA. A subscription to the fast-breaking newsletter, a team yearbook, ticket redemption nights, a Spurs clock, meet the team and draft parties, the official team photo and Spurs hotline. Those are included in the benefits and privileges which are offered to Spurs season ticket holders. These and other benefits are there for one purpose, to ensure that a Spurs season ticket holder receives value for his investment in the Spurs, and more importantly, in San Antonio. Mayor Henry Cisneros discusses his views on the role and importance of the Spurs to San Antonio.
As you know, I've tried to encourage and guide and steer and cajole in the direction of all things good for San Antonio. The Spurs are good for San Antonio. Not just a little good, but the Spurs are big-time good for San Antonio. They're what distinguishes us from other communities our size across the country. They're what projects us onto the national media, and they are what will establish our place for future developments in the future. I support the San Antonio Spurs wholeheartedly, and I encourage you to do the same.
The Spurs are taking steps to build a competitive team which will challenge for the NBA championship. However, to accomplish this purpose, several obstacles have to be overcome. By virtue of being in the smallest market in the NBA, the Spurs face handicaps that other teams don't have to deal with. Spurs owner Red McCombs explains.
As most of you know, the NBA and its players, through the collective bargaining agreement, have created what is commonly referred to as a salary cap. This salary cap is the maximum amount each team is allowed to pay its players, and it's 53% of all league revenues. This 53% figure is divided among all the teams and then distributed to the players in the form of their salaries. What some of you may not know is that there also is a minimum that teams must pay. This year's minimum was $6.7 million to the players per team, and we expect the salary cap to go to approximately $9 million next year, with a minimum over the $8 million range per team. Our expense side of this business is pretty much summed up in two general areas. Number one, player salaries and related travel costs. Number two, administrative and operational costs. This past season, we spent over $7.4 million in player salaries and travel costs. Our general and administrative and operational costs were approximately $5.9 million. As you can see, our player salaries and travel represent 56% of our total expense base. These areas are fixed year to year, and we really have very little flexibility in cutting costs in these expense areas. It is also of interest to note that here in San Antonio, we're paying pretty close to what every other team in the NBA pays in salaries and travel, with very little variation in the general administrative expenses. In a nutshell, our expenses are fixed and are comparable to the major NBA markets in the U.S. San Antonio is the smallest of any of the NBA markets, and our corporate base is also the smallest of any of the league's franchise cities. Now, here is where our challenge lies. In taking a look at the revenue side of our business, we generate approximately 18% of our revenue through the NBA from national contracts with CBS and Turner Broadcasting. The balance of our revenue comes from the San Antonio market, which is divided into three categories. Local sponsorship revenue, which represents 32% of our total income. Concessions, parking, and miscellaneous income, which generates 12% of our revenue. And tickets, which, as you can see by the graph, represents the balance of our income picture. One thing to note on our revenue side is that we have come close to our potential on the local broadcasting side of our business based on a very aggressive structure for this size market. We've also reached approximately 90% of our potential in the area of concessions, parking, and other ancillary income for the 88-89 season. Our national broadcast revenue is 100% of what it can be because that is fixed by the league through contracts that have been negotiated for the entire 27 NBA teams. Taking a look at our ticket revenue, we've only reached approximately 61% of our potential. And if we are able to generate enough revenue to cover our expenses and stay in business and be a healthy franchise, it must come from season ticket sales. I would like you to take a look at where the Spurs ranked in average game revenue last year from ticket sales. Even though we averaged over 11,000 happy fans per game and increased our ticket revenue by approximately 60% from the previous season, we still ranked 23rd out of the 25 NBA teams. The NBA is the nation's hottest ticket, and as you can see, most of the league's arenas are near capacity in ticket sales. San Antonio falls way below the league average in both percentage of seats filled and gross revenues generated. To give you a better picture, let's take a look at a graph which shows the receipts from the leading team to the league's average team and then the Spurs. As you can see, there is a tremendous gap between the leading team and the Spurs. We don't have to match the revenues of the leading teams in the NBA, but in order to offset a minimum of $3 million in increased player-related expenses, we must get our game revenue somewhere in the middle of the pack. It is clear that the NBA has great entertainment value, and the demand for the Spurs product is nationally very high. We have to generate the same interest in revenue here in San Antonio. We must have a core base of support at a minimum of our 8,000 lower-level prime seats for this coming season. As we discussed, we've reached our potential in our national and local revenues in all but one area. This revenue source in which we have room for growth is that of ticket sales. This is where we must increase our revenue to achieve our goals and why we must raise ticket prices for the upcoming season. When I bought the team last year, I did not do it because it made good business sense. but I wanted to give the Spurs the best fighting chance to make it in San Antonio. I'm glad I bought the Spurs, and I know that we're on our way to being competitive, maybe winning it all. But if we're going to stay in business and be competitive in the NBA, we've got to get our revenues up quickly. You might say we're fighting for survival among the big guys, but we can do it. Our season ticket holders are the lifeblood of this franchise and have been since the time it started. We need your support, and it is only because of your support that this team will be successful on the court and at the gate. San Antonio has and will continue to have the best entertainment value of any team in the NBA. We have the opportunity to take our underdog position and together accomplish one of the most amazing achievements in professional sports. We hope that you will be with us.
Next season will showcase this young team. NBA observers agree the Spurs are one of the emerging powers in the NBA. A strong nucleus of players will be strengthened by the addition of David Robinson and another high draft pick in the upcoming draft. For the Spurs, the 1989-90 season promises to be one of the most exciting in history. I'm Paul Alexander, and I'm inviting you to be a part of it.